Hong Kong residents are rushing to purchase supplies of food and medicine before being told to stay at home due to the prospect of another lockdown, which is causing grocery shelves to be empty. People have panicked about purchasing gas in various European nations, including France and the UK, in anticipation of fuel shortages and soaring prices. The supply chain in the US, meantime, is vulnerable to more disruptions. Specialists believe that corporations should brace for cyber attacks and a breakdown of local supply networks as eastern states respond against Western sanctions. Now, local news has shown that Americans are stockpiling up daily needs to brace for skyrocketing inflation, admitting a possible escalation of the conflict. Welcome to 360 Economist. There's a lot to cover in today's video, but before we begin, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to keep updated with future videos. Residents of empty store shelves in Hong Kong report having concerns about mandatory mass testing and a lockdown of the entire city. Local officials have urged restraint and pledged to provide enough supplies for everyone. But the majority of people are still doubtful because the government previously pledged to provide food staples for elderly residents during a round of lockdowns but catastrophically failed, leaving millions without access to food, water, and medicine for weeks. Authorities want to begin mandatory testing after March 17th, according to the most recent reports in the local media. The Chinese government is enforcing some of the tightest health regulations on the planet under the so-called zero-tolerance policy, while the majority of the world learn to live with the virus. Isabella and Feng Sheng, Associate Dean of the Department of Asian Policy Studies, presented a warning that the summer break for students would be moved to March and April, and described the city's approach as a disaster that was causing dread and concern among the communities. At the same time as tight travel restrictions and stay-at-home requirements scared away individuals and investors, this generated pandemonium among schools, teachers, parents, and students. According to an SCMP article, most downtown supermarkets were out of a wide range of everyday commodities, like shelf-stable goods. The SCMP further emphasized that meat was particularly hard to come by after two nearby processing companies had to close for sanitation after one of their employees tested positive. Thousands of photographs show empty shelves, and customers have been complaining about shortages as businesses and consumers scramble to catch up on social media. Given that Hong Kong is one of the world's densest populated cities and that its supermarkets have a limited amount of storage space, it is challenging to keep up with the expanding demand. The great majority of its food is imported from mainland China, and recent supply chain snarls have been made worse by cross-border truckers contracting the new, extremely contagious variety. Tons of food remained stranded on trucks for weeks because they were unable to cross the border or enter the city, and inhabitants struggled with severe food shortages. The newest panic purchasing was characterized as a tremendous failure of government communications. Laws are changing every few days. There are U-turns, bungled numbers, inadequate dated disclosure, stated Tom Grundy, editor of the Hong Kong Free Press news website. Users reported that extremely long queues were forming at supermarkets throughout the city, while others claimed that nothing was left in their neighborhood shops and that they had to turn to online shopping to restock on necessities. The city's soaring real estate costs are forcing some citizens to live in cage homes and cubicles with wood partitions, as locals scrambled to hoard and panic buy vital goods. Pharmacies in Hong Kong are also running low on anti-flu and anti-cold medications. Panadol has reportedly been in high demand, making it mostly unavailable in local retailers like Watson's and Manning's, as well as the online retailer HKTV Mall. Other medications like Mucinex, Flumisil, and Cotalin were also out of stock, according to Bloomberg. Drivers in France and the UK, meantime, are panic purchasing fuel and lining up their vehicles outside gas stations out of fear that the escalating international crisis would lead to a significant increase in gas costs. Recent record gasoline prices have been set in both nations. Regulatory bodies are warning of a potential increase in the price of oil as it soars to record highs worldwide. The RAC issued a warning just hours after the fighting started, predicting that the cost will soon surpass £1.50 for the first time ever. Those are £50 per liter, not pounds per gallon. According to reports, there are also enormous lineups at gas stations in America, and many of them totally run out of fuel as panic buying takes hold. Just 4 weeks ago, Texans experienced an event they dubbed Ice Mageddon, which included snowstorms and sub-freezing temperatures. This sparked the most recent gas panic buying spree in the U.S. Last year's sub-zero temperatures caused pipelines to burst, disrupting the state's water and energy distribution systems. The fear of a recurrence of last year's events is growing, and the escalation of the Russia-Ukraine issue raises the possibility of increased pressure on fuel supply. At the pump and in shops around the nation, customers have begun to brace themselves for the worst. While they still can, folks are loading up on supplies. Supply chain specialists are issuing a warning that greater supply chain bottlenecks, shortages, and increased inflation are inevitable as a result of Western sanctions, likely to provoke Russian reaction. Russian hackers are likely to launch additional cyber attacks with a variety of objectives, according to U.S. cyber specialists. According to Paul Sams, managing director of a cybersecurity consulting firm, hackers may attempt to hamper the U.S. economy, steal personal information from our banks to destabilize the financial system, and attack social media platforms to promote misinformation. We're going to witness a lot of mayhem and how it affects the folks present. Our power supply and energy services could potentially be attacked, and those services could be shut down for security or other reasons that could cause a disturbance. The world is experiencing rising turbulence, and people are beginning to understand that nothing will ever return to how it was. The worst is yet to come. Therefore, we should all be preparing for it now. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to this channel to keep updated to future events.